Number of boards for WIA, DWIA, NAVCEP, which is a training organization looking primarily at small wind. Greg's been very active in the small wind space, and then is becoming more active in the wind diesel space, which is fabulous to see. So Greg is going to give an overview of activities in Hawaii, both on a large and small scale. So Greg,
Great.
Please.
Thank you. Kat, is this the latest presentation that I sent this morning?
This is not the one that you sent us.
Okay.
You sent one for you this morning.
Okay. Well, this was. Let me see if it's been updated. No. All right. That's fine. I'll go with it. So apologies for a bit of a dry presentation. This was put together at the last minute, and when I mean last minute, I mean last night in the hotel room. So as part of my role with Northern Power, I get the opportunity not only to spend a bunch of time here in Alaska, but if you can't find me here in Alaska, I'm often island hopping in Hawaii doing business development on wind, which is a pretty nice job to have. So one of the slides that's missing here that we wanted to talk about was a little bit about the market opportunity in Hawaii. And right now there's not a lot going on with wind diesel. There has been a number of wind diesel projects in Hawaii that a lot of them are no longer in operation, and currently there's not a lot of development action going on in Hawaii, but there's a significant amount of opportunity and potential. One, because the state of Hawaii has an amazing wind resource. In just about any county within Hawaii, you can find really, really great wind potential. In addition to that, a lot like Alaska, is a very, very high cost of energy that seems to be growing very fast. They have over 3/4 of their electric supply is through petroleum, and so they're hypersensitive to raising fuel costs, and that transfers into high cost of energy that's growing very quickly on the island. So in addition to that, there's also a very strong renewable portfolio standard that's pushing the industry to look for alternatives in renewable energy to meet that goal that the state has put out, and a number of new legislation activities that have happened in terms of new zoning, as well as also a feed-in tariff that is now enacted in HECO, the Hawaii Electric Company. It's not perfect, but it is creating more opportunity for grid interconnection systems. So one of the projects that we are involved in Hawaii that is remote power based, that is wind application, was spearheaded by Gen X, one of our development partners in California and Hawaii. There's a number of key partners, some of which are here in the room. NextGen, who's providing the funding, the SCI, who's doing site construction, Steve Droulet with Sustainable Automation, who's here in the crowd, who you might be able to ping for a little more technical information on the project, as well as, of course, Nano and Northern Power Systems providing the wind technology. So this is a pilot project through the Hawaii Renewable Energy Development Venture. And a little bit of background on what HREDV does is they help Hawaii businesses commercialize renewable energy and energy efficiency innovations to solve these energy challenges that I just spoke of in Hawaii. This was funded by the Department of Energy in 2008. Right now, or in 2009 and 2010, they had $7.5 million in funding, which in 2010 was the application period that Gen X went after for this remote power system. And they also do programs in training, co-investment, and partnership development. So a little overview of the system that we're working on, which is a pretty unique system that we're pretty excited about because of the vast market potentials, not only in Hawaii but also worldwide. It's right now centered on a Northwind 100 kilowatt turbine on a 37-meter tower. It's going to be an off-grid storage energy to power irrigation systems, booster pumps, and well pumps. And the first pilot project is centered around Hawaii agriculture communities. And the system is designed to be scalable, so it can run multiple pumps within the application that it's being used. It can provide on-demand dispatchable power for the ag communities' water needs, 20-year design life cycle. And basically, it's going to be housed within a 20-foot container where you have your power controls, battery storage, and wind on one side, pump on the other. And so it's really designed to be modular and to be integrated into a wide range of different applications. There's also going to be a 2-kilowatt PV array mounted onto it in case you have periods of low to no wind for power control. So a little bit about some of the components beyond the Northwind 100. There's going to be a lithium battery system that's going to be integral to this, and from what I understand, this can also integrate a diesel system if that's appropriate for this. But the first prototype is going to be based on a battery-powered system. It's going to be an inverter-based system with PLC system controls that, again, sustainable automation is going to be leading the design in that. It's a variable speed drive, again, attached to an irrigation pump, and all of this is going to be controlled through remote comm and a remote terminal unit in the turbine as well. So a pretty sophisticated system. For those a little more technically inclined, here's the one line for the system and the overview. And for those of you who want to get into more detail, this will be available later. So the team that's been really important in bringing this together, of course, GenX Development was the one who really spearheaded this, put the grant together, and ultimately won the grant. GenX is funding part of it. Right now, this pilot project is still waiting some funding as well to implement this first one, which is going to be on the Big Island. And we already went through some of the other key players in this team that are going to be responsible for putting the system design together and constructing this particular project. The market could be relatively large. Right now, we're focusing on the ag market within Hawaii. Because of a lot of the difficulties within the Hawaiian market, site control, just like in Alaska, is really difficult in Hawaii. The biodiversity is greater there than any other state in the union. And so getting permits can be incredibly difficult. Fortunately, in the ag market in Hawaii, wind is a pre-approved use. So often that's kind of the low-hanging fruit for us to focus in Hawaii. Often permitting can take several years and cost quite a bit of money, and also go through a lot of discretionary permitting processes. So even if you have your ducks in a row, you don't know that you're going to get your permit. And that's not something that a lot of investors have the stomach for. So that can create a very difficult market. But it also creates some opportunity in terms of some of the other challenges we have. Utility integration and interconnection can be very difficult because of kind of the arcane infrastructure that the utilities have there. Some of their policies they have in terms of net metering and feed-in tariff are not all that conducive. They're started with limiting based on total utility capacity. Now it's switching to localized feeder capacity, which can be a huge limiting factor in some of these cases. So simply removing the utility out of the equation in some of these can be a very elegant solution, although it might not be ideal. Sometimes it's the only way we can get the projects done, assuming that we can get the permit for the project to get started. We're also exploring with GenX and the other partners applications beyond the Hawaiian market, looking at military applications to have on-demand and portable systems, of course outside of the foundation work that can be applied worldwide. Also with foreign aid, looking at different communities and countries across the world with critical water needs, and how this system can, again, be modular and meet those needs across the world. And of course, we're right now exploring other market opportunities, building a business model to try and sell this application and this pilot project to a broader, larger market. So that's about all I have. Again, for the HREDV project, keep an eye on it. We're moving forward. We do have a site already in control in Hawaii that we're going to be locating this at. And hopefully, once the project's funded, we'll be moving this forward relatively quickly. And I invite you guys to answer or ask any questions you have.
Any questions?
Could you talk just a little bit more about the HREDV, just broadly beyond this potential project?
Sure. It's open solicitation. They do have annual rounds that they open up for grant requests. And it's pretty broad. Again, they look for joint venture, investing, as well as partnerships. And it can be anything from pilot projects like this. This is very kind of R&D based, to training programs. And ultimately, their real focus is, a lot of it's on job creation. They have those training programs that they'll also look into funding. But a lot of it is really being speared by the renewable portfolio standard. Hawaii has one of the most aggressive renewable portfolio standards in the country. And a lot of it is because of that dependency on foreign oil and their vulnerability to fuel costs. And so that's part of their large agenda, is to try and fund projects that ultimately can be scalable and integrate across all the island communities. And most particular Oahu, which consumes most of their energy demand. But as you get out into to Lanai and Molokai and some of the smaller islands, the cost of energy goes up significantly. So they're really looking at those innovative ideas, and the solicitation process is pretty open in terms of looking for new and creative ideas to fund.
Is this on? Excuse me. Here we are. Yeah, hi, Peter Crimp, AEA. Like Hawaii, we have been trying to integrate wind into our larger system. Now it's large-scale wind, and there have been challenges with utility. But you know, in a lot of ways, it comes down to economics. So I guess a question I have for you is what the cost of power for pumping you're looking at for that system is, and how does it compare to the grid power? Yeah,
well, it's tough to gauge it on a pilot project, because obviously this project's going to be significantly more expensive than ultimately if this gets commercialized. We're looking at a total project cost of about $1.6 million. Right now, I couldn't give you a cost of energy estimate on this particular project, because we're still looking at the wind resource, modeling that a little closer, as well as nailing in what the actual economics are. One of the reasons why we focus on Hawaii, just as we focus on Alaska, is we look at all states and the policies that drive the market there. And a lot of those policies last 6 months, a year, and it's really hard to build a sustainable business model around policy that waxes and wanes. One thing that doesn't change in Hawaii, that doesn't change in Alaska, is the high cost of energy. It's always been there. It's going to continue to get more expensive. So it creates a stable business model for us to look at how these innovative solutions are going to pan out economically, and give us a little more confidence in pursuing those, knowing that the business model is going to take a little while for it to really pan out. So we think that we can compete with 30 cents a kilowatt hour, which is, it's about 26, 27 statewide average, and it's gone up 10% year over year for the last couple years. When we start getting out to Lanai and Molokai and even Maui, we're looking at closer to 32 to 36 cents a kilowatt hour at a residential load, and the agriculture load's about the same. So we think that when this is commercialized and we get the project cost down to maybe $800,000 to $1 million for one unit, that we can compete with that in a class 5 wind resource, which is pretty easy to find in a lot of locations in Hawaii.
Any other questions?
Rory Peterson from the University of Alaska. I was wondering, you mentioned that there's lithium-ion batteries in here. I wonder if you could say a little bit more about the size of that, if that's more for storage or more for stability?
Well, it's for storage and it's for on-demand, because sometimes your pumping needs aren't going to match up to your wind loads when the turbine's actually running. So we want to be able to provide a system that can pump water when the farmer needs it or when the irrigation needs are. So right now, as far as I know, and Steve Droulet might have a little more information in terms of what the prototype pilot project battery size is going to be. I'm not exactly sure, but ultimately that will be modified based on the site, based on what the pumping needs are, the depth and the draw, and the wind resource that's available as well. So ultimately, it's going to be something that's going to adjust from site to site. And of course, it's also something that we're looking at different technologies. Is diesel something that we can bring in as a replacement for battery storage if that's more applicable, depending on the location?
Any other questions? In which case I have one. I'm kind of putting you on the spot a little bit because it's not a Northern Power project, but could you, based on your experience in Hawaii, could you comment a little bit on the first island or the First Nation large wind plant and how putting that into the existing diesel power system is going?
And well, there's a lot of contention. Obviously, there's.
Can you describe the project for a little bit for people?
Are you talking about the 400 megawatt project? Yeah. So there's a proposed project for 400 megawatts, 200 megawatts on Molokai, 200 on Lanai, and these projects are massive and really consume a huge portion of both of these islands. And what they're trying to do is run an underwater cable to interconnect and export almost all of that, well, pretty much all of that energy to Oahu. And so those islands, and certainly those people on those islands, are seeing this as an exploitation and aren't too happy about the marring of their landscape and exporting their resources to Oahu. And ultimately the amount of land that they use for harvesting, for hunting, for fishing, and for tourism that will no longer be valuable to them in that regards. They've put together the development partners, the manufacturers, as well as the state have put together community packages to try and sell it to the local communities. You know, every local on the island gets X amount of dollars, and here's a small little benefit that you get. But currently, the locals there are not buying into it. The last meeting I went to on that, just about every local was against it, and it's tough because they support wind, they support renewable energy, and they want to see this technology flourish, but they see this as just a mass exploitation of both the utilities that they haven't been pleased with in a while in terms of HECO, HELCO, and MECO kind of monopolizing the utility industry there on the islands, and none of the benefit really staying within those local communities that bear the burden of the project. And in addition, there's a challenge within the underwater cable, the cost of that project, and it really requires that level of scale for it to make sense economically. So there's a number of contingency plans of whether they can do 200 on one island or 200 on another, what scale systems they want to work with. Wait until turbine technology is larger so they can have a smaller footprint on the island. But right now there's a strong push for it. There's a strong need for the energy on Oahu. But right now there's a very significant organized front within the local communities to stop it from happening. And right now I think they're fairly successful in doing so for the time being.
And then what about the 30 megawatt First Nation project on Oahu?
That one has a lot more traction. There's a lot less contention around that. I think a lot of it is because it's going to be consumed on Oahu. So if they're using it on Oahu, it's built on Oahu, it's consumed there. You know, right now they're still going through site control, and distribution's a big issue. Interconnection there is always a problem because of kind of the arcane structure there with their existing utilities. But I think that's something that's going to move forward relatively soon.
Any other questions? Oh, one couple. Great.
One more.
Can you come up to the?
Real estate in Hawaii, have you considered offshore?
So the question was, because of the limited real estate in Hawaii, have they considered offshore? Certainly northern, we don't do offshore turbines where we focus on community applications. My knowledge of the market is it has been considered, but because of the topography of the seafloor, it's really difficult. Now that there's advancements in floating foundations, it's viable, but anywhere you go on those islands, it's also about view shed, and there's a significant sensitivity to aesthetics. And you really can't put those turbines anywhere that's going to be economically viable and not see them from the coast or affect the shipping lanes between the islands, which is also really crucial. So right now there's no projects that I know of that are on the table for the economic development board there, as well as for the utilities that they're looking at developing offshore. But I think everybody kind of keeping it in the back of their minds as a potential if the economics prove themselves, which currently they're not, from my understanding.
Getting back a bit to your original project, I'm surprised that it's actually economically feasible to use batteries to store, use as a storage means in a pumping application. I would suspect that it's always cheaper to store the pumped water.
Yeah, well, his question was that he's surprised that we're using batteries within the HREDV project, and that often that's not an economical mean for storage. And one of the design within this prototype is to allow different storage mechanisms. You know, I don't know if we'll consider flywheel, or if we'll be pumping water up so we can use it later, or if we'll be integrating diesel. You know, that's probably a better question to direct to Steve in terms of what other types of medium we can use to integrate within that. But right now, we're just trying to prove the project will work. And the first project isn't going to be economical. We're hoping that when it is commercialized, that ultimately it will become so. And it's only going to be economical in places where they're not all that cost sensitive. That's why we're looking at military, foreign aid, and of course high cost of energy applications within island nations.
Great.
All right, great. Thanks, Ian.
Thank you very much.